On this episode of On the Bridge, I'm joined by Tash Trenear-Harvey from Burgess. From chief stewardess to partner at Burgess, Tash has experienced the super yacht industry from both sides of the bridge, on board and ashore. After 15 years at sea on private and charter yachts around the world, she now helps lead operations within one of the industry's most recognised yacht management companies. In this episode, we discuss leadership, yacht operations, crew to shore transitions, and the future of yacht management with real insight from someone who's lived every level of the journey. Hi, Tash. Thank you for having us here in the beautiful London Burgess offices. I want to start right back at the beginning because you've actually been with Burgess since 2022 and you
That's
are a
right.
partner here now. Tell me, what is your day-to-day role here? But also, I want to talk about how you've ended up here at Burgess.
So my role at Burgess is the yacht management business operations manager, which is a bit of a mouthful. But yeah, my role is basically coordinating new business management, fleet, business sides of yacht management, should I say, working with the crew team, technical teams, and our yacht management teams. But yeah, I mean, since 2022, left yachting and stepped ashore, which was very exciting, bit of a daunting step ashore.
I'm sure.
But it's not something I haven't done before. Having studied at university in Otago University down in New Zealand, I did 3 degrees down there.
Three?
Yeah, which
Whoa.
yeah, so a bit of
That
a
kept you busy.
yeah. So I started with a Bachelor of Physical Education and
Right.
a Bachelor of Commerce and Management. And near the end of finishing the Bachelor of Physical Education, I was sort of pulled across and thinking I want to do physiotherapy.
Right.
So then I studied physiotherapy, and after 8 years at university, completed my degrees. Went on to go into private practice for a little bit and worked with elderly to prevent sort of falls prevention, and then moved to another practice near my parents' place in Hawke's Bay. Did some sports rehab there, and was actually offered partnership early on with that company. And I kind of thought, oh gosh, this is really early in my career to be sort of in New Zealand and not having travelled.
Yeah.
So that was kind of at that point I thought, let's just take a pause and 6 months go and do some travelling. And at that time, a few friends had been on yachts and earning some euros. And so I thought, why not give it a go for
Great way
six
to see
months?
the world as well.
Yeah, so I had a return ticket booked and off I flew
With the
to,
intention of going for 6 months.
oh yeah, a girlfriend and I went. She was also offered partnership in her role as well. And we both said, let's go together. And we
Scratch
literally
that
spent
itch.
2 weeks together before we got on a different yachts and we didn't see each other again. We obviously kept in comms as we were together, but yeah, it was quite a whirlwind entry into yachting and got on a 30-meter single season yacht and we live on board owners in Croatia.
Wow.
Was Stu Masseuse. So that's how I got my entry in, which was using
Sure.
my skills. And that's, which is kind of, at that time, it was a newish kind of role. Multidisciplinary crew weren't sort of around at that point, but massage and the masseuse skills have
Yeah.
always been, popular.
And physio actually as a sort of skill rather than just plain massage must have had a huge value for owners living on board.
And crew.
Yeah. Yeah. I bet you were
Yeah.
busy.
And crew. So yeah, a lot of different, a few treatments and things, but I haven't,
Yeah.
I haven't practiced for a very, very long time. So yeah, but I absolutely I loved the lifestyle, I loved the travel, I loved the camaraderie of being with the crew and serving on a beautiful vessel. It was,
Yeah.
absolutely amazing. So when the 6 months rolled around, I decided that I wouldn't be going back and ended up getting on to another 60-meter vessel, which I stayed on board for 7 years and
Wow.
did a transition of ownership through that period.
And
Which
a lot of traveling then all around Europe
yeah, so
and
dual season across Europe and across to the States and the Bahamas and Caribbean.
so actually doing those degrees was definitely not sort of not that it was a waste of time, but it sort of actually catapulted you into the next part of your life, which then has led you then on further to even today. So
Yeah.
8 years was worth it in the end.
I think I think university teaches you life skills,
Sure.
regardless of what you go out and do at the end of it. It teaches you to live with people, to live away from home, to learn, to
Yeah.
listen, and to train and study. It teaches
Yeah.
you sort of those basic skills. And then obviously you go into your discipline and you learn further from that. But it was a shock, especially to my family, who sort of were like, I can't believe you just spent 8 years at university and now you're on a yacht. It was a bit of a I don't know, a change, because I was doing something completely different to
Yeah.
what their friends' children were doing.
Yeah. And I guess
Um,
what they thought you were going to do, because they probably had an idea in their head of what they wanted you to do career-wise after studying for so long.
yeah,
And then say, "Oh, I'll see you in 6 months," and then not to come back after
yeah.
6 months as well.
And I just didn't for 15 years, basically. Was on private vessels until I left the 60 meter, and then joined another 63 meter as chief stew with a
Charter.
charter as well. So I was on there for 5 years. But on the previous vessel was where I met my husband as well.
Yeah.
And so we worked together for pretty much my entire career. We've been working together, which has been wonderful. And
Yeah.
people wonder how we've lived together in
Mhm.
a bunk room for that length of time. But it's never been a problem. I couldn't see it any other way, to be
Yeah,
honest.
that's the thing actually, isn't it? Obviously, I work with my partner and people always ask me, "How on earth do you do it?" But actually, I couldn't imagine not doing
Yeah.
it. It's actually is means you've always got someone who understands the position you're in, which actually if I went home to a partner every night who didn't do what I did, they'd probably be thinking I was mad. So actually, it's quite a comfort sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, it
But okay,
is.
I've never slept in a bunk room with
Yeah.
him, so I'm not sure if we'd still be married if I was doing that. But I've met Giles; he's very nice though. So. Okay, so after a very successful 15 years at sea on both charter and private vessels, you saw the world working your way up to chief stew, you came ashore. What motivated that transition and how did you know it was the right time?
So we've always said that we would leave when we were both ready.
Right,
So if one was really wanting to stay for longer, we would work together on that. And I think after 5 years that we had been on this chartered boat, we were not rotational
right.
positions, and it was sort of we'd take a year out. We took a year out before we joined that yacht, to travel and just to see family and to
Yeah,
spend
sure. 'Cause you
time at
miss so
home.
much when both of you are
You
away.
really do. You give up a lot of milestones and a lot of different your life, but also your family
Yeah.
and friends' lives as well. So we decided to sort of take some time off, and it was actually we landed in New Zealand in October of 2019, just before COVID, and borders closed and COVID sort of took off. So we had already left the vessel,
Yeah.
and we were at home at my parents' place with the plan of being there for 3 months, and then ended up being 13 months, living in a motorhome on their driveway and traveling around.
But that was fine because you just lived in bunks, so you were
So we were in a
fine.
mansion. It was we had a kitchen, we had a living room, our own bed. It was incredible.
Oh, so but when you landed in New Zealand then, the idea was that you were finished with yachts or you were just gonna take a break for
Just a
a
break.
right,
Yeah.
okay. Oh, so
So
that's
we were on
so
a break.
interesting.
Yeah, we were on a break. And then it was naturally over the 2 years, that break ended up being
Mm,
2 years long. And it was when the borders opened up for us to come back into the UK that we sort of, once we got here, we sort of reevaluated, do we want to go and work on a yacht in
yeah,
these scenarios at this point in time? Or because we are now essentially naturally migrated ashore,
yeah,
do we want to now continue that trajectory and see
yeah.
what there is
'Cause
for us?
I guess also yacht life looked quite different after those
Yeah.
13 months. Because when you came ashore, life was open, normal, but even then, by the time lockdowns were lifting throughout the world, it took I can't even remember now, it feels like such a blur, but by the end of 2020, there were still restrictions flying, crew were still having to isolate. So even if you had gone back, you would have had to try and find a position together and you would have had to still go through a lot of the restrictions and things. So then you came to London because Giles is obviously from the UK.
Yeah, and I was born here
Oh,
as well.
okay.
And so that gave us a good starting point because
Yeah.
we could both work here.
Yeah.
And we had accommodation. And so it was sort of, let's see what happens and
Yeah.
make it work. And I've never lived in a city, and so London's
Different
obviously a
from New
great city
Zealand,
to
yeah.
choose to live in, which is very, very different lifestyle from what I've sort of grew up with. But loving it, absolutely loving the city. But we've also got a place in Palma, which
Yeah.
Was a sort of sun and sea escape.
Still
that
look
was
out your
always
window and
planned.
see a few boats if you want to.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
So when you came over then from New Zealand to the UK, was your plan to then set up a life here and get a job? Or were you coming here just because the borders had opened from New Zealand so you could finally travel? What was the decision sort of like to decide that's it, we're done with working on board? Did you make that here or had you done that before you came over here?
No, I don't actually ever remember a point of when we made that decision. It was sort of the next step was borders are opened up.
Let's go.
We've got a place in the UK. Let's go.
Yeah.
We had discussed about even starting work in New Zealand. We'd discussed about starting work in Spain, but the UK seemed to us to have the best opportunity.
Sure.
And it also had a great yachting sort of network here that we could stay. We both wanted to remain in the industry.
Right.
We sort of made that clear quite early on. That was an industry that we were both really passionate about being in. And then the rest of it was all just slightly natural progression. Yeah.
So, but before you guys had discussed what a future plan would look like, right? If you did leave yachting. So it's quite rare to sort of hear that those type, especially in a couple, that you'd had conversations back years before that eventually if you did leave, what it would look like.
I think coming into yachting for both Giles and I, we were slightly older. We'd been to university.
Yeah.
Giles had a couple of careers beforehand. And I suppose with that wisdom, we kind of had a bit more of a grown-up mindset about sort of planning and thinking about the natural ceiling that comes with the yachting industry if you are in a couple, to be fair. And we'd sat down, I think it was second year on this boat in Barcelona in a bar in the Gothic area, and had a napkin, and we planned out 10 years. And within that, at the same time, we actually did a little bit of a sort of a review of our salaries versus what it would actually cost to live ashore, and how much we have available to us. And it was quite an interesting exercise to do because it really did show, things like tax and social security and all your living costs and things. If you take them all out of the salary, then you're left with actually still a really good salary. So with that in mind, and looking at that as the amount of sort of capital that we had to play with, we started to do some savings. And so initially from that napkin equation, we came up with setting up a joint account, which we were just meant to go to travel with. It was travel money, but we actually never touched it, and that's what allowed us to put the down payment on our place in Palma, which was quite exciting.
Yeah.
So a bit of planning, but I think
so those discussions started quite early on, because if you guys were year 2 into that boat, you actually carried on working on boats for quite a while afterwards. But having those conversations is so sensible, because I think whatever age you go into yachting, being away from friends and family and living on board a boat, obviously some people stay their whole career, but a lot of people don't. They do want to transition ashore, and having an idea of what that would look like quite early on means if anything ever happened that meant you had to leave your job, at least you have a plan in place already. So the transition might feel less uncomfortable.
For sure. And I think, since that napkin conversation, the world has changed so much. And I'm grateful for us having put together that little nest egg to help with the transition, because it was a lot longer than we thought it was going to be, but also the COVID factor in between. meant that we were both not working.
Yeah.
And so we had to support each other emotionally through that, but also financially, we weren't bringing in any money at that
Yeah.
point. So I think nowadays with the way the world is going, I mean, I would really advise people to look at putting together, putting something aside just
Yeah.
for that rainy
Just in
day.
case.
I know it sounds like sort of quite a sensible thing to say, but some people, you do get wrapped up in the
Mhm.
lifestyle of being on a boat and not paying tax and not having to do these things, and suddenly you've got all this money, but you're living in high season. You're seeing people spending money, and it's
Yeah.
quite easy to get wrapped up in that.
Sure.
I mean, have a great time and enjoy it, and I really did love it, and had really great experiences. But at the same time, you can plan for your future.
Definitely. Yeah. And then actually, I think if you plan for your future sensibly, you can enjoy the moment even more because you know that whatever happens, there's security there, isn't there?
Exactly.
When you were coming ashore, what were some of the challenges that you found adjusting from yacht life to shoreside corporate life? A lot of crew have described leaving yachts a little bit like losing a part of their identity. And obviously, we've touched on the lifestyle. Did you experience anything like that?
I mean, it is completely different coming off vessels. I was lucky in the fact that I was or am in with my husband,
Yeah.
so we had each other to go through that transition. But it is quite isolating. You are starting again, and
Yeah.
especially starting in a new country as well, and not having that natural support around you
Yeah.
is quite a big. It's quite a big transition.
A lot of the crew that I mean, obviously, this is slightly different for you, but we interviewed actually an ex-crew member who then came ashore and started a business. And he was saying that he had to almost learn life really because he'd gone onto boats at such a young age that he just had no life experience at all and then came home. So was trying to find a job, adjust financially because had not been prepared at all like you.
Yeah.
I feel like we could write a book on your experiences. Like this is the way to do it. But also learning who he was aside from working on the boat, because on the boat, you're part of this family, this tiny team of 30 people or whatever. And then you leave that and you suddenly, what do I like doing? What do I want to do with my life? Who am I? How do I do my own washing? How do I cook?
That was a very interesting swap because I mean you get paid in your job to do everyone's laundry
Yeah.
and suddenly you're having to do it for yourself, and you've got to time these into your day.
Yeah.
And it is a big change to think through, like how to manage a household, although that's the skill sets that you come with. You sort of just transfer
you,
it to your
actually,
day-to-day.
Giles is pretty lucky because you would have transitioned shore together and you would have had that all nailed. Whereas he's probably still thinking, how do I wash my socks?
It's I think, well, especially the yachts that I've been on, at least anyway, they're pretty good. Some of the crew,
Okay.
they're pretty good. They're able to do their laundry.
Yeah,
They need to on
sure.
the weekends, and they've been pretty good at going through their cabin checklist,
Yeah.
and making sure that everything's done, and their beds are made and everything. So it's kind of, I know that you do learn some skills about hygiene and all the rest, at least.
Oh, okay. So moving on then to talking more about the role you're in now here at Burgess. How do you think your experiences on board shaped your approach to the yacht management now? And how has your experience as a chief stewardess supported your understanding of the client expectations?
When I first started in yachting, as a stewardess on board a yacht, we had a couple of chief stews that changed quite quickly, and I remember one of the captain on board at the time had said, well, it was great reflection actually, and I learnt a lot from this, which was all of them came in really strong.
Right.
They came in and just wanted to change everything in one go. And it
Sure.
was mid-season. Some of these changes were mid-season, with a crew that was already working together really well, privately run vessel with really good routines. We knew the owners inside and out. And they came in with checklists from other vessels and started to enforce these
Yeah.
changes. And I remember listening to him talk about that feedback about, people sort of changing things for the sake of changing things,
Uh-huh.
not sitting back and learning and listening and taking note of what is actually happening and why. And I've kind of learned a lot from that and taken it forward. And
Yeah.
when I progressed to a chief stew, especially joining a new vessel or even going into a new company, it sort of taught me to sort of really understand what it is that everyone does in their day-to-day, listen to what they're actually saying, and also try and understand where they are in their day. And what I mean by that is not everyone's going to be on form all the time, and especially on a yacht when you're living together with the people that you work with.
Yeah.
Not everyone's going to be at the 100% or 110% that's expected of them all the time. And I think if you can pick up on those cues and support someone through that, then they'll be there for you when you need that support as well.
Yeah.
But that's what being in a team's all about, working towards that common goal. And that's something that I've sort of carried through with me, which is just change is required when change is required,
Yeah.
but not for the sake of it. When it is required, you need to show value and reason why.
Yeah.
Find your champions to be able to sort of make that change and make it stick and make it worth
and go with
it.
you, be on that journey with you.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I always think about that time and sort of reflecting on that, which
just
was
generally in life, isn't it? Being able to evaluate a situation before jumping in and making everyone feel like what they're doing isn't good enough or it's wrong, but actually understanding why everybody does it like that. And then actually when you do try and sell the reasons why you're making change, people can see you've taken the time to understand the situation, and it will be a far easier sell than going in there guns a-blazing and saying, right, we're changing everything, especially mid-season and also in an established team, because there is usually reason why people do things the way they do things. And a lot of people aren't comfortable with change.
Yeah.
So you have to work out how to help them change comfortably, because it can be hard otherwise trying to convince people for change.
It can be, and it's also a confidence thing as well, and having confidence in your ability that you don't need to be making change to be seen to be doing a good job.
Yeah.
And that was the other lesson that I learned from that captain as well, is that a well-run machine should be that you're really not involved, that it should all be working seamlessly, everyone doing their role and staying in their lane.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't have to sort of micromanage. If you're micromanaging and looking busy and getting frustrated and things, that's not demonstrating your skills as a leader.
No, that's also such good advice.
It was really...
Who is this captain?
Yeah, I know. It really... So 2 really great pieces of advice that have really changed my mindset on working in a team.
But also helped when you're making that career transition from working as a chief stew on a busy yacht, then coming into a corporate environment. How great to be able to come in and have that mindset that you're not just going to come in and I've got to stamp my authority and I've got to be busy. I'm going to learn and I'm going to watch others and I'm going to understand what's needed, what the business needs from me to be able to deliver a good service. So yeah. Brilliant pieces of advice. I'll be writing those down, guys. Write those down. Okay, what approach have you taken to build strong relationships with the crew and owners that you're working with?
I think, as we sort of touched on, listening and being there for someone, but also, I mean, my door has always been open well, my office was in my bedroom at one point on one of the vessels, so my door was always open for people to come in and ask questions. And I think mentorship to me is really, really important.
Yeah.
A buddy or some support person that you can go to, that you can sort of hash out ideas with and feel confident and comfortable to sort of go through life changes with them or decisions about your next step. And I think that's one of the reasons with Burgess that I've absolutely loved in my career so far with them, is the mentorship program that they have in place here, which I, have really thrown myself into and thoroughly enjoy. It's amazing to have that access to knowledge from someone that's been in the industry for so long, that you can just have an open conversation and go through these skill set where you're looking at, what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are and things like that. And I think actually taking the time to do that is really, really important. And that was one of the words of wisdom that we were given when we were writing our CVs when we first came ashore, because obviously a yachting CV is completely different to a corporate CV. I mean, I don't think I nailed the change at all, and luckily Burgess is a part of the yachting community and understands, when they read the CVs, but it's a challenge to change.
Oh, you're applying for jobs you've never done before for a start.
Yeah.
So how would you even know how to really direct your CV to a job that you've never done? You've got to try and sell yourself on potential. I am really good at this, so I would be really good at that. So yeah, it's so challenging.
Yeah. It's like starting like a green stewardess again, trying to sell your skills that you can do this. You just need someone to give you a chance.
Yeah.
And so I think the mentor side, or having someone in the industry, or reaching out to, even if you're thinking about maybe a career change down the path, but reach out to someone that's doing that role at the moment. And I mean, they will help you. That's the beauty of the yachting industry, is that everyone will give you time and to explain what it is they do. And then you can sort of analyze as to whether that is what your next step might be.
Sure. Thanks for watching this episode so far. We have some great guests coming up, and we wouldn't want you to miss any of those future episodes. So please don't forget to click the subscribe button and enjoy the rest of this episode. So actually, your experience as a chief stew, running a team of people on a vessel, even a big vessel, it's still a small community because you're living and breathing and working in the same space. Then when you come ashore, actually, you have a very refreshing view on how to treat colleagues and people that are working for you, because that's how it has to work on a boat. You can't have a shut door policy. You can't be unapproachable, because you have to be working alongside people, making it, work well. So then when you come ashore, actually those skills and that mindset is perfect, because then people working, either you're mentoring or you're working with, they're going to know you're approachable. They're going to want to come and learn from you. You can learn from them. So being a chief stewardess actually gave you way more skills and sort of upsized your mindset than even just the physical skills that you learned.
Definitely. Yeah, it really, I mean, you're multitasking all the time, which is normal life, right?
Yeah.
And the same with any busy corporate life. And the role that I'm in, where I first started off as a yacht management coordinator and then progressed to my role now, is different. Your day looks different every day. So you're moving between different topics and helping and discussing with different departments even.
Yeah. And every vessel's different.
No
every vessel is managed or runs, or the teams are the same, are they? And they all have to be treated as individuals, and they all want individual service. So even if you were dealing with sort of similar things, they're never going to be exactly the same. The problems and issues, are they?
They're never going to be the same. But the beauty of working in a sort of a company with a large fleet and experience is that someone's come across that problem.
Yeah, that's true.
So even though everyone's got a different scenario and there's multiple challenges that come up, someone would have seen something similar in it, and everyone shares knowledge between departments. We're all there to help each other, to help our clients have the best experience, best ownership of a vessel. Yeah, it's awesome, and that's what I love. That's the culture and the value and the camaraderie and the fact that we all like actually being with each other. It's just great. The values that are placed with Burgess on that is really, really important.
Yeah, that is important, because I think if everyone values time together as a team and you all want to do a good job, that certainly shows in the delivery to the client. If everyone hates their job, it feels very different, doesn't it?
Well, it's the same on board. I mean, you very quickly work out whether the crew is gelled and working together. And realistically, every vessel, any feedback from any charter that that you're on, it's always the crew that have made the trip. They go to beautiful places and they have
Yeah.
the most amazing experiences. But the feedback always comes back to that human element.
Yeah.
The crew that are on board, they come back to see the same crew and always want to see the same faces. When I started, the yacht I was on was managed by Burgess, and there's still people here that I remember
Oh,
working with at that
really?
point.
Oh,
So it's the value and the knowledge that you have, but it comes down to
the
the
people.
people. It's
Yeah.
all the people. You can have the same processes
Yeah.
in place, but it's the people that are running those processes
For
that make it
sure.
work.
And people want a good person at the end of the phone,
Yeah.
don't they? What are some of the most common misunderstandings crew have about management companies? And what do management companies sometimes misunderstand about crew life on board? Because you've experienced it from both sides.
Yeah. So initially, coming into the industry as a green stewardess, my touch point with management in general was pretty limited. It was more
Sure.
to do with the offices and things. And as I worked my way up into second stew and into the chief stew role, I like to study, obviously, after spending 8 years at university, and I wanted to learn more about what the SMS was
Yeah.
and things like that, and actually realised that a bit of education to the stewardesses about why we do drills and this
Yeah.
and what why the compliance regulations exist actually really helped with
I'm
engagement and
sure.
understanding. And so we used to run little sessions, training sessions during yard periods and things to just to sort of understand that. And
Yeah.
the officers will come down and go through certain areas that may be confusing to them or they just didn't know about, and got really good feedback from that. And then since then, the guest profile, your training record books and things have started, which that covers all of this in there. And I think it's really important
Yeah.
because a little bit of knowledge just means so much to how things function if you
Yeah.
understand. And now with yacht management companies, I think initially you always sort of thought about them being yacht management sort of being a bit micromanagey, sort of coming in and telling you must do this and you must do
Yes.
that, which to some extent they are because it's
Yeah.
regulations, but you would be doing it regardless of whether it is the yacht management
Sure.
company that's telling you that because
Or
it's
you
a
should be
regulation.
doing it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's a regulation. And I think the way that yachts have changed, the way that ownership and sort of asset management
Yeah.
and family offices have changed, mean that we're all working together for the good of the vessel, the safety of the vessel, and the crew on board. We work with the captain, and
Yeah,
I
not
think
bumping heads. Yeah, it's all trying to sort of be cohesive.
yeah, and I
Yeah.
think because our yacht management team are made up of yacht crew,
Yeah.
or at least have had some nautical experience,
Experience.
whether it's merchant, navy, or cruise ships or anything like that. We are talking to someone that's been in that seat before. So the captain is talking to someone that's been in that seat before.
Yeah.
And so a chief engineer will be talking to the technical manager who's been a chief engineer.
Yeah.
The crew, be the purser, will be talking with a stewardess or a chief stew as a YMA,
Yeah.
who's helping with the yacht management assistant role.
Yeah.
And then our yacht managers, who are the sort of funnel for the communication through to the yacht or to the owner, are they have been a captain on board or at least a chief officer. And I think because we're all from yachting backgrounds with yachting experience,
Yeah.
it makes things a lot more relatable.
Yeah, sure. And that's a really interesting point you were saying about learning more about the technical management of a yacht when you're a crew member. Because nowadays, I think people are keen to understand more, and how great if the yacht that the crew is working on is led by heads of department who encourage that. Because, you've ended up working in a job that information you would have learnt on board would have then made sense. You're like,
Yeah,
oh, okay, I learnt that, when I was on board. But I think it helps personal development, but it also helps people understand, why are we doing this? Why is that person coming on telling us that this is, because actually, yeah, otherwise it probably is a bit, sandpaper rubbing. They come on, say this, and everyone's like, well, we're really busy. And, so to have an understanding of everyone's working ultimately to keep everyone safe, aren't they?
exactly.
That's what everyone's job is. Captain, chief officer, whoever is working on the boat and the management side, everyone's job is working towards safety. So yeah, I guess awareness is probably key, and you have both of that from both sides of the roles. Do you think yacht management companies sometimes underestimate how valuable ex-crew can be in shoreside roles, or used to? Because I think there's been a shift in
Yeah,
culture.
I think culture has changed a lot, and it used to be a lot of you had to have a certain ticket to be a yacht manager and
Mm.
things like that. And I think, I mean, the associate program that we run here is a great example as to how that's changed. Crew that have spent some time on board but have not necessarily gained the tickets
Yeah.
can work their way up from a yacht management assistant and into a yacht manager role, being hands on the job
Right, I
and
didn't
being
know that. So there's a specific program
yeah.
then
So we
that
have
they
a
can join, maybe even as junior crew, to then work their way up to become a yacht manager.
so yeah. So when they come in as a yacht management assistant
Yeah.
to help with the yacht manager, and they can if they're wanting to be a yacht manager in their career path, then that is available to them.
That's a great
And
idea.
there's some support and some training that goes through that
Mm.
with the fleet managers, sort of oversight
Yeah.
on their training. And I think we've got 4 or 5 that have been through the program, and
Wonderful.
yeah, all managing fleets and have the support of the team and have great skills,
Yeah.
absolutely
Well,
incredible
they've learned
skills.
on the job, really,
Exactly.
because they've learned watching the job being done, which actually sometimes for some people, however, which way you learn best is the best way, isn't it?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
oh, brilliant. Were there things that attracted you to Burgess as a yacht management house? And what key operational efficiencies or innovations have you implemented since stepping into this role?
So, I mean, as we've discussed, I was managed, well, the yacht that I was on was managed by Burgess early on, and really sort of enjoyed their working with them
Right.
on a personal level and their interest in learning about each crew member and the safety guidance and the systems that they had in place. I really valued their support, being on that vessel. So he had earmarked them early on. It was actually on that napkin, and
Have we
that
still got the napkin? I
no,
feel
I
like
don't
we
actually
should
know where
frame
the
it.
I don't know where the napkin ended up, but Burgess was definitely one of the goals was to
Yeah.
work as in yacht management at Burgess. And so, yeah, so I mean, it's always been a goal, and the values and the culture that they have sort of sat with me personally as,
Yeah.
and I've
For a
a long
long time
time.
before even going into New Zealand and then having your COVID break. It was already there on the list.
Yeah. So
That's so
and taking it
interesting.
onto other boats that were, managed by different companies and
Yeah.
things. But I think coming into my role now and the skills, or at least the uh, changes, which were slow to start, learning the company, learning their systems,
Yeah.
um, just understanding what everyone does,
Hmm.
and how it all works on the side. I mean, there's a lot more to it than I realized from being a crew member. It's incredible how much information there is to absorb on
Yeah.
all the different flags and all the different
Yeah. Well,
regulations.
like we say, every boat's so different as well,
So
isn't
different.
it? So actually, you're learning it for however many boats that you're sort of under your wing.
Exactly. And that's, I mean, it's demystifying all those regulations is kind of the most important role to keep people safe and compliant,
Yeah.
and understanding all of that. So it's been really eye-opening, to sort of understand how those systems work and the people and the jobs that the roles that they play, behind that. But I guess efficiency is always my, as a stewardess, efficiency and planning is always my been my key thing to make sure that people are that their time that they're putting into something is worthwhile, and if there's a way to make it easier, faster,
Yeah.
and a better outcome for them, then we should be looking at that. And
Yeah.
that's kind of what I guess the headspace that I come in is really looking at, analyzing the different processes that we have in place, and to see if we can make it better, easier,
Sure.
faster.
Safer.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, those are conversations that's how I know you, because we've worked with you and many of the other yacht managers here for years. And efficient is for sure the conversation that we've had every time. How do we make this easier for the crew to use, that then makes them want to use it, that then makes doing the actual official procedures much easier? If everyone's doing the official procedures, everyone's safer. So that is my complete experience
Yeah.
of working with you. So
It's
it
very
makes
true.
perfect sense. But also interesting, again, like you touched on, you came in, you weren't going to change anything straight away. You came in, you learnt, which blew your mind, obviously, how much there was to learn, and then started looking at things up here and thinking, right, how do we then try and improve things if they need improving, obviously.
Exactly. Yeah.
Are there any common pain points between yacht crew and management that you recognise and have found or looked for solutions for? Seeing things from both sides of the...
Thinking about, I mean, it's an interesting question because I think it's communication, but it's the listening and the communication as well. So
Sure.
it's the both ways, but making sure that you're looking out from what you're doing. So you can be busy and you can feel like you've achieved a lot, but if you haven't passed that information on to the person that needs to know what the next steps are or what you've achieved,
Yeah.
then sometimes there can be some frustrations. And I think
Yeah.
one of those lessons I learned was as a physiotherapist, which was when someone comes, if you roll your ankle, you're playing netball, you roll your ankle, you come in for treatment, you do your 6 treatment sessions, you've got the last treatment session booked, but you're actually back running and you're playing.
Yeah.
Do
You're
you turn
fine.
up?
Probably not.
No, you don't turn up.
I mean, I wouldn't be playing netball anyway. Those days are gone for me, but I know what you mean.
But it was that part of having that client and therapist relationship where
Yeah.
it was kind of like you don't even get a I'm fine.
Yes, that's
I'm
so
fine.
true.
Feedback. Thank you
Yeah.
thank you very much. My ankle's fine. I'm back playing netball.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of, so I've always sort of thought about that one on a service perspective.
Yeah,
And
they're coming to you when there's a problem they need solving, but once the problem's solved, you obviously don't go to the doctor or the physio or the dentist because your problem's gone away.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so the same for yacht management, where we solve problems,
Yep.
and we look at remedies, and we look at making sure that everyone's doing on fine form all the time.
Yeah.
Making sure that yacht is available to the owner when they want to use it, and making sure that the downtime is minimal,
Yeah.
maintenance periods and things.
But also I mean, it's obviously in a much smaller way. What we do is we provide a service and product like you guys that enables the crew on the boat to be able to do their job, because without our product, they can't move the boat. Without the things that you guys provide, the crew are going to be busy doing all other things. So you're just providing time and solutions to enable the crew to be safe and deliver the service that they need to deliver.
Which is so much more important now with the
Yeah.
way that the expectations on crew have changed,
Yes,
especially after
definitely.
the last couple of years. It really has changed. The number of crew that are employed on vessels is a lot more with
Yeah.
rotation and things, but also there's the multidisciplinary sort of aspect to it. You've got drone, deckhand drone pilots. You've got all the different combinations now,
Yeah.
and so their roles are stretching.
Yeah.
So what they need to do in their day is getting larger. The regulations and safety is still there.
Yeah.
So someone still needs to be helping with that, and that's
Yeah.
where yacht management companies are so important, because we're providing that support. I think management sometimes sounds like a scary word. Support is probably a greater
Yeah. Management
definition for what we
almost
do.
sounds like you're bossing people
Yeah,
around,
but we're
whereas
just there to
actually,
support and
yeah,
guide and provide advice and provide the structures for people to remain safe and compliant
and to be able to do their
and
job.
do their front-facing client part of
Yeah.
their job, and to be there for and for the client when they need to use the yacht or keep the yacht maintained to a level that they're turning it over quickly for
Yeah.
them. So I think the expectations on crew is a lot greater now,
Yeah.
and that's where now so the asset management side of things is more important now than
Yeah.
it has been.
So we always say if an owner knows what we do, there's a problem. Because ultimately, if we've done a good job, like you guys have done a good job, the owner's going to step on, have a wonderful time, and not know anything about 10 minutes before it could have been an absolute, disaster. But because everyone's done their job really well, the owner didn't know that. And therefore, it's a success. Safe, operationally fine, able to leave the dock. The owner had a great holiday. Perfect. And then you've
Exactly.
done a good job.
Yeah, all working towards the same goal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Moving on slightly. So there can sometimes be a disconnect between the brokerage side of yachts and the ongoing management of the vessel. How important do you think it is that those two worlds collaborate and understand to help manage the expectation of the buyer and the client?
I think that is probably, again, something that's happened in the past. I know from my time here, it's definitely not how we operate.
Sure.
We operate in a 360 service.
Do you think that over the last few years, even because I feel, or as an industry, there's definitely been some changes. Do you think that now it's become even more important that those two departments and those people are speaking to ensure the owner's as happy as possible and has the best experience?
Yeah, and getting the best information and guidance that they
Yeah,
can, and that's why, from a yacht management perspective, when a client's looking at buying or selling, we're brought in um, early to advise and help with running costs.
interesting. Okay.
How and sort of planning how much a refit's going to cost if they buy this vessel because it's at this time in its life cycle,
Sure.
and just understanding from our fleet data that we have
Mm,
available to us to understand a vessel of a similar size and GT, and what is its running cost, that we can look at the fleet and sort of give averages around spends and things.
yeah.
That's not a metric made up by someone that they're sort of using to say that that's how much it's going to cost to run a
Yeah, 'cause
vessel.
that's actually an interesting point because what could look like a great deal on paper, a boat of a certain age, you think, oh, actually, it's not cheap. Obviously, none of them are cheap, but good value, should I say? And then it's purchased, and then a year later, the captain's like, well, we are going to need a refit next year because the boat's, or 10-year survey or whatever it is, and the owner says, what? No
Uh,
one mentioned that when I
yeah.
was buying.
So so we look at all the survey life cycle, where they
Yeah,
are and how they are, and and give the advice
yeah,
on what the state, with the status of the vessel at that
yeah.
point of purchase.
So you
Yeah,
work quite closely then with your brokers
yeah,
so that when they are selling the vessel, that actually you're working alongside with them. So it's sort of a joint effort, really, because you're providing perhaps what the future looks like. If that owner says, oh, I'm going to buy this boat, I'm going to keep it for 5 years and then I'm going to buy another one. You could actually, now we have so much data available and we understand costings and things a bit more.
yeah.
You can say, okay, in 5 years, there's a refit due, there's a survey due, there's XYZ. You can actually give them a much more realistic picture of what that 5 years might look like as the owner.
Exactly, and we're working really hard on that at the moment. Our technical team, at least, is trying to develop, being able to roadmap those costs, and they've been working on that for the maintenance side and for the refit side of things, which is, I mean, owning a yacht, the running of it is the biggest cost. So
Yeah.
it's making sure that you do have understanding of what is in what it's
Yeah.
going to cost you to run it, and using our information enables us to be able to paint that picture
And the
for them.
honesty creates, I guess, a level of trust that it might not be the news that the owner, potential owner, wants to hear, that it's going to be X, Y, and Z, but you perhaps then end up keeping them as a client rather than them going in a bit blind, buying it, being dissatisfied, delusioned, and feeling a bit unhappy about the whole thing. You going and being honest from the start, saying, okay, it might look like a good deal on paper, but this is what the costings will be, hopefully then creates that feeling of trust that they say, well, you've been honest from the start. Let's, find something else if that one's not suitable.
And I think there's a different, as we've talked about, the fact that different yachts are used in different ways, even different ownership creates a different use of a
Mm.
vessel as well. And I
Yeah.
think when people are buying a vessel and they look at the current running costs, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's what your running costs will be.
That's so true.
Because you could be chartering, you could be private, you could be single season, you could use it a lot, you could use it very little, the location you're using it in. So it does vary. It does vary a lot. And so that's where, we can have those discussions and work out what their plan is, what their objectives are, how the type of crew structure that they would like to run, and then you can start to really frame it into a picture that suits them.
Yeah, and then you end up with a happy customer who
Exactly.
stays with you long term. There've been lots of cultural and generational changes going on in the industry. How is Burgess preparing for the future with regards to its place in the market, technologically, regulatory, and just generally its offering for management?
So we had our 50th year last year,
Wow.
which was pretty exciting.
That's
Lovely to be
crazy.
part of that.
Yeah.
And incredible to sort of celebrate that milestone with the company, which has kind of pushed us forward into the next 50 years.
Yeah.
And with that comes a change in the world and technology and AI and all these things at the same time, and things are changing quickly, and we're changing along with them. And I think I remember one of the last DRC that we just had, we had some great feedback from Flag and things about our compliance system. And I remember Matt, who is our DPA, saying, congratulating everyone. And then the next day you're back into it. You're never complacent. Sleep, safety never sleeps, and you're straight into it. And that is that you keep moving, you keep evolving. So we're looking to utilize all the tools that we have available to us, and we're currently going through some software and platform updates, which has been really exciting to roll out. So we have a new finance dashboard, which we've created in-house, pulling our information through from Sage into a really easy to use platform for captains and owners and crew. We've also turned on a payroll module, and which is going really, really well.
I heard,
so
which is really exciting.
Which has been brought in house, and that's really exciting to be able to take it through right from compliance all the way through to payroll in one system.
That's the thing, isn't it, with finances, that actually to have that ability to have it in house and have that control over everything. Again, it's just working towards making the client experience a one-stop shop so much easier, everything more efficient, because you're working with the clients every day, you're hearing the feedback, you're hearing frustrations, and being able to then have your own product to be able to say, okay, well, this is the feedback we're getting, we can change this from blue to white, whatever it is.
Exactly.
You can do that. So that's, when we built our software, that was the biggest shift. First of all, the amount of money it cost, I was absolutely surprised by. But the ability of someone says, I don't like this, to say, oh, actually, a few people have said that. How great. We can actually make it really for our customers. And it's very satisfying.
Which then, and you want them to use it. So you want to empower the use of those tools that are at their fingertips, because they're all made to make their day-to-day easier. They're never put in place to make anyone's day-to-day harder. It fulfills either a regulatory requirement or a system that gets the outcome of being paid, or something like that. So and being, as you said, bringing it in-house is just to be able to make those changes is absolutely incredible.
And you know how it feels being on the other side of the coin, working on board, the pressures that in a busy charter season, it's important everyone gets paid. It's important that everything's loaded correctly. It's, all those things are so important, aren't they? So actually every system that you're putting out with the understanding of what it feels like to be the other side. And that is really important when you're delivering a product and saying to a busy crew member, this is what you have to use now. You want them to say, actually, this is really making my life easier, not saying, oh, do I have to, which, I guess is sometimes the feeling if they're busy and they don't want to change over or whatever.
Change management. It's not easy to change.
No.
But if you can see the value and that you're swapping to something that the outcome initially sometimes it might be a little bit more work to make that change, but you can see the outcome coming, and I think that's the goal of where we're heading with any of these changes, and it's really it's a very exciting time.
Yeah. So here's to the next 50 years then.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
We'll have to come back and do another one. Okay, so what advice or support would you offer to crew looking to make the jump from crew to shore-based role? And is there something you wish someone had told you or you'd known that could have supported the transition for you? I feel like you probably are the one to give the advice on this. The way you did it was
I think
very prepared.
sketching it out, and regardless of whatever that looks like, it doesn't need to be perfect, and just having a little bit of a plan and sort of a thought around what it is that you might like to do.
Yeah.
I wish that I had talked with more people
Interesting.
in the industry around different roles that they were in, and how they got into it, and the skills that they sort of deemed as being important to make that step. I didn't leverage that, and I definitely didn't leverage that enough when I was in the industry, and I've offered that to people in this role that I'm in now, and I've talked with a lot of crew making shoreside transitions. Even if we don't have a role that's available for someone, feel free, to reach out, and we could explain what it is that we do and how we do it, and work out whether that's something that is that you would like to do. And if it's not within yacht management department, then there are other there's loads of other avenues that you can sort of go down within the yachting industry.
Well, help them decide, actually, rather than apply for a load of positions as a yacht manager. If you can help them work out if that's actually really the direction for them to go in, you can save them quite a bit of time if it isn't. So, and resource-wise, because we were talking earlier, obviously, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, there wasn't as many resources and sort of open forums and things as there are now. So also you were doing it in lockdown as well. So actually it wasn't as easy as probably it is now to pick up the phone or grab a coffee with someone or meet them at a boat show. Whereas now, I guess, life is a bit more sort of open and people are more connected, aren't they, to be able to have those conversations?
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot more support for groups, at least, helping with transition ashore, and there's more formalized pathways, I think, for especially for chief stews or pursers coming ashore. There are roles, more roles now than what were available when I was looking.
I feel like there's a different appreciation though now, especially as women, talking about those types of roles. Again, we were talking earlier, I was really surprised. A friend of mine who helps women make that transition to find roles that are suitable, and she was saying that a lot of women who've worked in stew roles don't know how to market themselves because they don't feel that they fit into a certain category, which blew my mind, because I was thinking they are like the ultimate multitasking machines. They have done everything to such a high standard. You are a jack of all trades, but your level of output is going to beyond maybe what a normal person working in a shore job would be. So I found that really interesting, because I thought that they could do anything, based on what they've done. But now I feel as if it's more of an open discussion, us talking about women coming ashore and going into different roles that maybe traditionally they didn't feel were open to them either.
Yeah, sometimes having too many skill sets is hard to sort of find out what you want to do from it. And I think that's probably the other piece of advice I would really offer is take a look at your time on board, especially the last year or so that you've been on board, and write down the things that made you really happy, the things that you really enjoyed doing, whether it's even being able to see blue sky or being able to be near the sea or whatever it is. And then when you're setting yourself up or making that move ashore, work out how you're going to put those into your life, because those are the things that make you happy. That's what fills your bucket, fills your cup, whatever, however you want to talk about it. But without those, you want to lose that part of yourself. And so I think, and putting those down as to what makes you happy also helps you identify where you truly believe your strengths
Yeah,
are.
your passions are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it actually starts to sort of frame out what your passions and but your skill sets of what you
Yeah.
could sort of outsell. From that, you can then start looking at how to change your CV.
Yeah.
But you're not alone. You don't have to do it yourself either. There's other people. There are so many people out there that can offer advice and
Yeah.
to help with that transition. So just don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah. And that's such good advice. So make sure you do planning as far ahead as possible. Definitely financial. I think
Definitely
that's a good one.
financial.
And yeah, try and reach out to other people who've been through it. But that's really interesting and lovely advice, the last one, because actually when you're working on board a boat, the environment is quite unique. You're not going to replicate that on a shore-based job, very unlikely to. And if there is one, brilliant if you find it. So writing a list of the priorities, do you want to sit in an office?
Yeah.
Or do you want a job where you're traveling and out and about? Do you want to work in a big team? If you've worked in a team of 20, do you really want to go and be on a floor with 1,500 people? And working out those important things to you actually might help you narrow down what the jobs are out there that would be suitable.
You don't need to fit into a box anymore.
No.
With the way that the world allows for hybrid working and working from while you're traveling and things like that. There's so
Yeah.
many things that are available to you. So I think you go in eyes wide open and write that wish list, and then
Yeah, and
from
try and
there
tick as many as you can when you're
exactly.
looking for a job. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great advice.
Mm.
Oh, I've taken a few snippets of wisdom today. I'm going to be writing down at the end. Thank you so much. That was
No
really
problem.
interesting and lovely to chat. I really appreciate you having us here. Thank you so much.
Thanks for your time.